So I was in my office on Thursday, and my cell phone rang, and it was Northside Hospital, and they said, "We have an opening for you tomorrow." I was like, "What?" And they said, all of your readings are in alignment, and so if you want to come get your heart converted again, we have an opening for you, and you need to be here at 11 o'clock. And I was like, "Oh." And they said, "Do you want it? Because we don't know when the next appointment will be available." I said, yeah, I'll take it. And so Ty took me, and I go, and this is my third reset of my heart. And what they do is they do a cardio conversion. And so I was getting prepped, and the nurses and everybody, they're going, "You're so calm." And I said, "What are you going to do?" Right? But then she says, "Oh, this is your third time to do this?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, this is your last, because you can only do this 3 times. And that's when I went, I wasn't so calm. And it's like, "What?" And she's saying, "Yeah, this procedure, they really don't want to do it on the heart muscle more than 3 times because, it's kind of..." So I said, "Okay." And so I went through my stuff, and I processed. And as I was sitting on the little plastic stuff, and they were shaving my chest, and I'm like, going to the beach in 3 weeks. I've got... Priorities, people, priorities. But as I was processing, I was thinking about that because, the first time they did it, my heart stayed in regular rhythm for 3 months, and I was so excited. And I felt like I was my old self again. And then it flipped back. And then the second time they did it, it stayed in regular rhythm for 14 months. And in that time, I climbed Kilimanjaro, and it still stayed in rhythm. And then it went out when I'm lying in bed. And so this time, I thought, okay, where can I take this now? And as I'm sitting there and I'm processing, there's a point to this. As I'm processing this, what dawned on me is that that procedure was my ceiling. In other words, that when I first heard that they would do it and that it worked, that became the pinnacle of all pinnacles. In other words, that was the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And then when she said, "This is your last time that you can do this," I go, now it's become my floor. In other words, now there's something more. I know it'll stay and it'll do whatever it needs to do, but whatever the next phase, whatever the next development of that is, will be the next thing. And in the realization of that, I was so profoundly grateful for this teaching. Because what this teaching provides us is that awareness that we live in a universe of infinite possibility. And just because you think you've maxed something out does not make it so. But it makes it so if you believe that it's maxed out. You follow me? And so what I've discovered in this particular philosophy is that our beautiful world gives us opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to practice what it is that we profess we believe. And so it's true. And so that means that in these beautiful 24-hour capsules of what we call our days, that we have the opportunity to wake up and go, my day now could be classified as unformed substance. It's unformed substance. And what I have, the training and the ability and the mindset to be able to do with that unformed substance is to form it. And the way I form it is by the way in which I choose to think, by the thoughts that I dwell upon, by the direction or the trajectory or the course correction that I have to implement in order for me to command that unformed substance to be what it is that I dictate and not the other way around. And so when we go into the world unconscious, when we sit at the bed of the thing and the nurse tells you something, and then you could spiral into despair and start to think about all the different varying things that could go wrong rather than being in the moment and go, oh, okay, I wonder what the next thing is. I wonder where this journey is going to continue to take me. And then you see that you become the master of those 24-hour capsules. And you become the substance, rather than everything just happening by default or happening to acquiesce the way in which race consciousness or mass consciousness believes. And so it is those moments, those priceless moments, where you and I get to practice what it is that we say that we believe. Every single day. Every single day. And what I've come to understand about these various moments in these days is that they're precious. They really are precious. You know, right now as we speak, one of our own members who for a time helped teach our teens, she's in hospice right now, B.B. Fitzgerald. And I look at this woman's life who's been a part of this community for so very, very, very long, and I realize that as she's in that transitional period, that there is this thing that teaches us about how precious that life is. And so what do we do then with that information? And that really is the thing. What do I do with the information? What do I do with this philosophy? What do I do with my life? What do I do with those moments that kind of jar me? And the word of the day is reset. What are those moments that when I hit that reset button, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I take ownership? I love language. I love words. I love history. I love allegory and myth. And I love scriptures in the Bible when you're able to look at them and stories from the Bible, when you're able to look at them from the deep, rich metaphor that they provide. And there's one about that describes the biblical period when the Hebrew nation was wandering in the desert. There's so much about that wandering in the desert, right? Because we've all been there. We got the flip-flops and the dirty toes to prove it. You know, we've been wandering in the desert. And during that time, the priest would perform this really compelling, very telling ritual. They would take a goat, and then they would tell the people to send all of your sins into the goat. This poor little goat. You know, they would bring it out, and they would say, okay, everything that's nasty and bad about you, just aim it towards that animal. And the people would do that. They would just like convulse and just throw everything at this goat, right? And then the priest would very ceremoniously take the goat and then drive it out of the town and leave it. And after the people did so, the goat was driven out of the camp, supposedly then taking the group's sins with it. Thus was born the concept of scapegoat. Now, I want you to imagine being one of those people, right? And in the moment, I'm sure that what they felt was some sense of relief. Oh, that animal just took all my nastiness away, you know? And to this day, we appoint scapegoats in order to make us feel better about ourselves. Now, here's what I love. What if those priests had sat with those people and began to explain to them the philosophy that you and I subscribe to? A philosophy that says, you know what? There is no such thing as sin, by the way, in the context by which you uphold that. Sin is just an ancient Aramaic word that means missing the mark. It's an archery term, and we all miss the mark, right? But that doesn't confine us or send us off to some, place of no return. That those actual mistakes are precious moments that become the learning lesson for us to actually course correct. So rather than curse them, we can bless them. Rather than trying to send that and make somebody else the responsible party for the things that are going wrong for us, we can take ownership of that and look how powerful that is in terms of this life course that we've all signed up for. You know, our soul chose to be here. Our soul chose to do this dance in this perfect time and in this perfect space. In fact, our soul is so in alignment with this particular journey, that it's the thing that made you, brought you, and is being with you right now in this moment. It's the thing that compelled you to get up this morning. And so in that place of ownership, there's never a need then for us to point the finger or place blame for anything outside of us. There's never a time when you have to sit on the bed of a room at a hospital and they tell you something and you have to accept that as final. Don't you get that what you are given every single day is unformed substance? And that unformed substance begs, and waits expectantly for you to form it. The other beautiful part about that is that whatever you do with that then, there's no right or wrong. You didn't form it bad or you didn't form it good. It just forms because that's the way in which this impartial nature of our universal law works. It just responds. It responds to us. And what I'm fascinated about is that no matter how many times we say that or talk about that, or the way in which we explore that in our own personal path, every single one of these 24-hour days gives us the opportunity to go, do you remember that? Do you remember that? Do you remember that? And to put those things into what we call spiritual practice. And so as we look at that, we can really begin to understand how powerful we are. We can also begin to look at our habits of wanting to project things onto other people. So, we've been on a little journey these last 3 weeks, and that journey was designed from a board retreat, your Board of Trustees retreat. And I will tell you that the outline of the journey did not come to us until the last 30 minutes of that board retreat. That we went round and round and sat and talked and talked and talked. And it wasn't until all of that stuff was looked at and discussed that the clarity came within those last 30 minutes. And in that final half hour, there was step number one, which was the invitation. We felt like that you as a community, you needed to be invited to look at how we can be in this world but not of it. And what that means is, don't become so wrapped up in this spiritual path that you neglect who you are and what you are and the instrument, the body that you've been given, and all of the things that we do to integrate into this earth, right? And the funny thing about that is we teach things like time is an illusion, and yet our service starts at 11:30, and you've got to be at work at 8 o'clock or 9, and so we still take illusion, and we still have to operate in that illusion in this earthly existence, correct? And so that means that one is not better than the other, that both are compelling us to integrate them. How can you and I then integrate and be in the world and not run from the world, not run from the issue, not run from the scary place, but run towards it and actually run towards your ceiling, knowing that the ceiling is going to do what? It's going to become your foundation because you have to grow. You have to grow. And so the invitation is, for us as a community, we get to grow. We get to grow. And the way in which we get to grow is entirely up to us because it's unformed substance. It's unformed substance. I'm so glad you're here. You make me feel like my old home when I grew up in First Assemblies of God. I love it. Thank you. Is that? I love it. Perfect. So, and so step number one was invitation. It was an invite for us individually, but collectively, to look at the fact that things must be talked about, things must be integrated in order for us to move on. The second one was migration. So now you can't just talk about those things. You've got to begin to take steps. You've got to begin to take action. You've got to migrate. You've got to migrate towards a bigger idea. When I went to the Czech Republic 2 years ago, those people adore their past president who passed away. His name was Václav Havel. And many of you know him, you know his writings. He was like a mystic in government. Imagine that. And those people, he took a country, a communist country, and when it was liberated and the revolution happened, he set such an example of high-mindedness. And I came across this quote by him that said, "Vision is not enough. It must be combined with venture. It is not enough to stare up the steps. We must step up the stairs." And so the migration is, okay, let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about what we need to do as a community financially. And then let's begin to do what? Let's migrate. Let's start to migrate because it's all doable, right? It's unformed substance. And what are you going to do with that? What are you going to, and I'm not just talking about here, I'm talking about you, your personal life. What are you going to do with that? And so as we migrate, one of the things, what I love about migrating is you got to shed. Because man, if you carry all that luggage with you, that makes that migration really, really, really efforting, right? And so you're shedding, right? So one of the things we talked about last week that you have to shed while we're migrating is this idea of pain as being special. Now, pain can be translated to story. It can be translated into victimization. It can be translated into just simple, basic unconsciousness. And you're invited to shed that. And so when I said something last week about the fact that our pain isn't special, the irony of that is that when we hold it in such a place of sacredness, then the very thing that we say we want, which is freedom, peace of mind, the very thing that we pay good money for therapists and psychologists and all of those things to then continue to talk about the pain, distances us from the very thing that you say that you want. And so in the migration, we have to go, you know what? I tell myself, this is what I say to me, David, I say, get in line. Get in line. If I think that my pain is special or my story is special, get in line. And I said, so what am I going to do about it? Do I want to keep carrying this or do I want to let it go? Do I want to let it go? And so this week, this last one is integration. So you had an invitation and you have migration, and now the integration is what do we do about it? What do we do about it? And it's so funny, people do not want to talk about money. You just get weird. Just get so weird. And I'm included. And I think, why? Why is that? Because I'm not integrating. I'm not integrating. And so what's going to be shown to you today is the fact that this is so doable and so simple. I wrote this week that your feet carry you along the varied paths of measured miles and daily duties. Your mind carries you across adventures of immeasurable possibility. Why travel solely by foot when adding the mind will take you to points unforeseen and adventures beyond the scope of the norm? But you've got to want that. You've got to want that. So I found this piece. I thought it was very relevant. It said, "We are born into a strange time, a time that tries men's souls. Bewilderment and fear hold many. Change and uncertainty stalk through the land, all lands. Those who keep their courage up and go serenely on are coming through in a way that those who weaken or lie down cannot know. But to do this, many lives need help. They need real, concrete help. There is something in the universe that responds to intrepid thinking. The power that holds and that moves the stars in their courses, sustains, illumines, and fights for the brave and the upright." When do you think that was written? Sounds like it was just written, right? It was written in 1897. We live in strange times. Well, let me tell you, we live in strange times. We're always living in strange times, right? And there is never a time, and there is never an era when that level of power, that level of understanding, that level of conscious thinking isn't required. And so you've heard of Ralph Waldo Emerson, right? Well, this was written by another Ralph Waldo. Not Where's Waldo, but Ralph Waldo Trine. Around the same time, evidently their mothers may have been friends or something, and it was a twofer. You name yours Ralph Waldo, I'll name mine Ralph Waldo. Ralph Waldo Trine. But here's the amazing thing about Ralph Waldo Trine, who very few people know about, but he wrote a book that I had to look the number back up. It sold 2 million copies in 1897, and it was called In Tune with the Infinite. And Gandhi got a hold of this book. Gandhi got a hold of this book when Gandhi was a businessman. And he read In Tune with the Infinite, which is basically saying exactly what it is that our philosophy teaches, which is also, Ralph Waldo Trine was also an influence of our founder, Ernest Holmes. But what Gandhi loved about Trine's concept about the seeker and about spiritual power is that we can become so filled with that divine power that the force of it through the individual can reach the uttermost parts of the world. Gandhi became so inspired that he found a way to personalize what this man was saying. So here's what I want to offer you this morning. Some of you out there are our next generation Gandhis. You are. And what I know is that this is a place that is fertile ground for us to continue to groom that sort of consciousness. And whether your Gandhiism is expressed just within the confines of your own family dynamic, or whether some way, somehow, the ripple effect of what it is that you learn and apply goes even farther than that, it's all the same. And so we have our own little Gandhi in here. His name is Jafan. See, I'm sorry I put you under such pressure. Come here. Come here, Gandhi man. So Jafan is one of our young adults, and he also spends a lot of time teaching our teens upstairs. And I want you to see what happens here. No pressure.
Peace and blessings, everybody. My name is Jafan Seeley, and I appreciate the opportunity just to speak here. And one thing that comes to my mind when David speaks of this Gandhiism, I do believe just for the simple fact that we arose this morning, for the simple fact that we have the ability to take this breath, for the simple fact that we have our heart that is beating, our blood that is flowing, countless cells that have been dividing within our body as we've been sitting in this room collectively together, we all have that Gandhiism within us. We all have that essence, that life, that peace that has provided us with this opportunity just to simply breathe. So a brief history about myself. I moved here to Atlanta about 2 years ago. And once I got here to Atlanta, I've always been intrigued by these type of teachings. However, I didn't participate in any specific church of this sort back in California. But when I came out here, I typed in spirituality in Atlanta. And this place popped up. First thing on the Google search bar. So whoever was in charge of the search engine optimization, thank you. Now, one thing that I've been uncovering these 2 years that I've been here is an enormous amount of gratitude. There's some incredible people who have really strengthened my spirit, my heart, reaffirmed the strength of this life that is flowing through me. People such as David, Janet, Karen, Ty, Barbara, Carol, Dana, Ryan, countless people. And by a quick show of hands, how many of you guys have been inspired or grateful for somebody here? Just look around for a moment. That's quite a lot of gratitude, my friends. What an incredible place to be, to share this type of feeling, this love, this life with one another. and people who are open to receive this. The two key things that this center has brought to me and has helped reaffirm within my own being is, first and foremost, an attitude of gratitude. I say that because every day that we arise, as I mentioned when I first began, there was innumerable, countless, infinite things for us to be grateful for. If you simply open your mind to the fact that the universe is here expanding perfectly, completely, beautifully. Our planet is spinning in such a harmonious order. It's resting in a solar system, in a galaxy. We are breathing this oxygen that has been in accumulation or manifesting into this form forever. We are here. We are a piece of all of this. In addition to that first wonderful thing that I've been taught here, an attitude of gratitude, the second thing is the great law. And for those of you who don't know what I mean by the great law, it is cause and effect. It is sowing and reaping. It can also be known as you pay your charter bill, you get cable next month. Okay? So as I have been understanding my life that has been enabling me to simply rise and be the being that I am, fully connected with each and every one of you, while embracing this power of this great law, this truth that we literally are thinking each moment, we are acting each moment, we are directing the course of our lives. We are working in complete harmony with the divinity of that which is. And we, as responsible individuals, are the ones who are literally controlling where we are going. Thought by thought, choice by choice. And not only that, where we are putting our resources. So this is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to bring these two things together, my friends, and to truly begin living and truly begin honoring the divinity that rests within each and every one of us. We are breathing the same air. We are under the same sun. We are sitting in a room together. We have abilities to reach across the nation and inspire people, across the world and inspire people. We have the ability to leave a legacy such as Gandhi left us, to stand here and speak of a man who hasn't walked this earth for quite some time. So I ask all of you guys to continue to tap into your inner genius, your inner light, your inner life, the God essence, the divinity that rests within all of us. And as Rumi said, you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop.